provided the material to you in Google Classroom. Now I am discussing some important topics from this unit in our PPT voiceover session. So basically in this particular unit we will discuss some of the peripheral devices. So as we know, without the peripheral devices that are the input, output and storage devices, our computer system doesn't complete, because the need of the computer is to process the data, and after processing the result is to be provided to the humans. So if you want data to be processed, then definitely data should be provided somehow to the computer. So how we will provide the data to the computer? With the help of the input devices. So we know that if we want to give some uh, program to the CPU, first of all we have to write the program. So how we write the program? We write the program with the help of the keyboard. Sometimes we have some softwares which is to be executed in the CPU. So what we do, those softwares are written into the tapes or in the hard drives, and from those hard drives the software are installed in our operating system, and they are executed by the CPU. So all these things, all this data, when to be processed by the CPU, should be somehow given to the CPU also. So how we will provide the data to the CPU? With the help of the input devices. So input devices are also a type of the peripheral devices. Then comes the output devices. After the data is being processed, somehow the data is to be given to be interpreted by the humans. So how the data will be useful for the human? If it will be human understandable, and it uh, somehow assessed by the human perception. So we are having some devices by which the data is being presented to the humans. So these devices are the monitor, printer and projectors. Again, we are having need somehow. We have to store the data for the future purposes also. We have to make records. We have to we have to store the images. We have to store the large softwares for the future purposes. So what will be the devices in which we will be storing these type of the data? These devices will be the storage devices. So we call all these devices as the peripheral, because these devices are somehow different from the our CPU and other internal components of our computer. Basically, all other internal computers such as ALU, buses, and our CPU, then control units and timing circuits, all these are the pure electrical circuits. But when we talk about the peripheral devices, these devices are not the pure electrical circuits. Somehow the signal conversion is needed. Suppose we are having a keyboard, then keyboard is not a uh, electronic device, because somehow the mechanical work, that is the stroke on a key, is to be converted to the electrical signal, and is to be processed by the electronic device, that is our CPU. So these are not pure electrical devices, electronic devices, uh, as our CPU and all other internal components. And if we talk about the hard drive, then the electrical signals are stored in the form of the magnetic properties in our hard drive. So the magnetic drives, or the CD drive or hard drive, these are the basically electromagnetic devices. So the peripheral devices are basically electromagnetic and mechanical devices. I Then comes to our next slide, that is why we need peripheral devices. As I already talked about this in our previous slide, that we need information and instructions to be provided to the CPU. How we will provide? With the help of the input devices. How the data processed will be displayed to the humans? In the form of the with the help of the output devices. Then sometimes we need to store the data for the future purposes, where we will store in the in storage devices. So these were the basically needs for the peripheral devices. Then we somehow come to know how these peripheral devices are being attached to the computers, because when we try to attach these devices which are somehow different from our pure electronic circuits, then there arises some problems. The problems could be in the form of signal convergence. We have to convert one type of signal to the other type of signal. Electromechanical signal to be converted to the electronic or electric signals. Then sometimes we are having a speed mismatch. Mismatch. What is a speed mismatch? Our CPU is a giant processing device. It is having huge uh, processing capacity in terms of instructions. As we can measure the speed of CPU in the MIPS, million instructions per second, means in 1 second CPU can process 1 million instructions. And a most efficient user which are using keyboard can type 2 or 3 characters in a second. So if we are typing 2 or 3 characters per second, and if we say that character is of 8 bit, then maximum 24 bits of the data can be given to the CPU in 1 second. But CPU can process the data in megabytes in seconds. Suppose we are having 8-bit instruction. For example, we are having 8-bit instructions and we can process 1 million instructions. So the total data that can be processed by our CPU is the 1 million into 8 bits. So we are having a huge speed mismatch. So somehow we have to bridge these gaps. Then there is a need of data code and format convergence. Suppose our keyboard is using 8-bit format to represent a character, but the CPU is processing data in 32-bit unit. Then there should be some unit which will be converting this 8-bit data to 32-bit data before being processed by the our CPU. So we need data codes and format convergence also. And we are knowing that we are having many different devices which are to be connected with the CPU. So every device has its own characteristics. All devices are heterogeneous. So when we try to attach them, somehow there should be a proper layer of connecting between these devices and the central processing unit. So these patches, these layers are basically known as the interfaces. We will talk about it in our next slide, how these different input devices are being connected with the computer with the help of interfaces. Thank you for this lecture.